So what could a hotter Australia feel like? Well, picture an outlook of more days above 35 degrees. We did a series on climate change in January this year, and the reason why we did that series was there was a lot happening internationally about how climate change was impacting various parts of the world, but no one had really addressed in detail how it was affecting Australia. So we did a 5-part series that coincided with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change meeting in Australia, and we looked at the issues of health, coastal living, we looked at biodiversity, living in the Pacific. It covered agriculture, it covered everything. So people here in Australia could see how global warming would impact on their future and the different sectors. And the reason why they were recognised, this series was recognised by the UN Association of Australia, was that they were impressed by the fact that we could tell the story in such detail online, on radio. We had it on AM every day, as well as TV at night, across 24, midday and 7 o'clock. So we'd had a huge audience, and the key was explaining the science behind climate change.
What are some of the difficulties and challenges of covering this beat? I mean, it's controversial, and the climate change debate is highly charged.
It is highly charged, and as the messenger that tells the story, you do cop a bit of flack, whether it be through Twitter these days or emails or complaints. But the way I have to address that is simply by going to the peer-reviewed papers, going to the big gun scientists who where climate change is their field. I've got to stick to that kind of code to avoid misrepresenting the science. I've been called pathetic and been told I should be sacked, and had a lot of ranters attack me on a number of occasions. But I think the key to that is just, number one, being strong, but also you've got to just tell the story by that code. I think you've got to be careful, about giving a climate scientist and, say, a skeptic the same level or the same stage. You've got to remember that these climate scientists, the majority of them are working in an area day to day and have been over decades. A skeptic might be in the likes of Lord Monckton. His credibility has been questioned very much. Getting him on the same scale and having a debate on national media is not right. It's, to a certain extent, trying to give balance is biased by giving this guy the same mouthpiece as someone who deals with this in far more detail and as a career.
So it's not always just about giving everyone equal time?
It's not about giving everyone equal time, and again, that's why you've got to stick to that code. You've got to stick to the guys who it's their profession, and looking also at the peer-reviewed stuff. If a journal or a paper is peer-reviewed, it's been through the ringer to a certain extent. It's been scrutinised by so many scientists already, so you're simply able to report on that. The advice I would suggest to anyone doing an environment story is to be sceptical, because anything that you report as fact is going to have massive ramifications for that sector. If you can, go to a second opinion. If you can develop contacts within your area, you can go to someone who you trust, and they can certainly scrutinise. A scientist, having said that, not a journalist, a scientist who can actually scrutinise the story that you're looking at. But be very wary, because a lot of these stories that might come to you, they'll come from vested interests, and therefore they'll want to push their own agenda. So having a backup or a way of getting a second opinion is a good way to work out if a story is a story. I call NASA scientists to say, is this right or is this not? And they're always willing, or they prefer to get the fact out rather than having something kind of misquoted. There's also the Australian Science Media Centre, who can often come up with a contact who you can have a chat over the phone and say, is this right, is this wrong, where does the science stand on this? And that's the way to tell the story without misinforming the public. This Airlink service will launch a new era in scientific exploration in the Antarctic. I've loved telling the stories of the environment. It's such a crucial part of our existence, yet it's a story that's so often not told. From the people that you meet, the scientists, from the places it's taken me across Australia, to the outback, to wetlands, to Alaska, to camping out with a bunch of Inuits in a village, telling the story of climate change. It's taken me extraordinary places. I've loved doing it.
And what now for you? I hear you're taking a break from the ABC for a while.
My husband and I are going to move to Hong Kong for a little while, which will be great. I'm leaving the round, which is very sad because I've loved doing this job, but I'm going to be a mum for a little while and hopefully continue doing journalism, but from a completely different perspective.
And you'll be back at the ABC?
I will be back at the ABC. I'm coming back. I can't leave the ABC. It's almost been 20 years, so I'll be back.